Now, in the next part of the lecture, we are going to be talking about applications of redox in electrochemistry. So, one practical application of what redox reactions can do is that we can use what you call half reaction to generate electrical current. Now, you have heard of the term electricity, and what electricity refers to is the flow of electrons. And when you have the flow of electrons, as electrons are moving along a path, such as a metal wire, that generates the electrical current that's being used to power the devices. And if you take physics, you will most likely be learning about the electrical current from a physics standpoint. But obviously, for applied chemistry, we're going to be talking about electricity from a chemistry standpoint. Okay. Now, there are two types of what you call electrochemical cells, which involve redox chemistry and half reactions. And the first type is called a galvanic cell, while the other one is called electrolytic. Okay, in a galvanic cell, a cell will happen naturally. We say spontaneously. It will happen without any kind of assistance. An electrolytic cell, on the other hand, is you need an external source of electricity, such as a battery or a power outlet or some kind of a power source. You need it to make the reaction occur. And we'll talk about that in just a few moments. So the design of an electrochemical cell, we're going to keep it really simple, but we're going to be seeing different variations of this as we do the labs that are part of this unit. But a classic electrochemical cell is made of what you call two half cells. And each half cell contains a metal, the electrode, and that's immersed in a solution of the ion that belongs to that metal. And these electrodes are called the cathode and the anode, one that's positive and one that's negative. If you look at your batteries, you will notice that many of them have a positive terminal and the other one has a negative terminal. So you can definitely connect that and know that one of them is the cathode and the other is the anode. So we're going to break it down in the diagrams here coming on up. Okay. So like I just said, we have the two electrodes. If you can look at this diagram, you can see here that we have the anode, okay, which is made of a metal. And then we also have a cathode that's made of another metal. And inside this solution, you have ions of this metal. So for example, if this is like, say, copper metal, this may be a solution of copper 2+ ions mixed with like an inert anion, such as nitrate or sulfate. So how to differentiate between these two, between the cathode and the anode? We know that the oxidation, where electrons are being lost, that occurs at the anode, while reduction occurs at the cathode. Okay. And one way you can remember that is by looking at the fact that these both begin with the vowel. So oxidation, O, and anode, the consonant, reduction, and cathode. And that, I think, is a convenient way of remembering which one occurs where. Okay. So the next part of the electrochemical cell is the wire. And this is the example of the wire that's connecting the two electrodes. And the wire is something that allows the electron to be transported from the anode to the cathode. Okay, remember at one element is losing electron, that would be the anode where oxidation is occurring. The other electrode will be gaining the electron, so that's where the cathode is. So electrons in an electrochemical cell are being transferred from the anode to the cathode. Then the next thing we have here is the salt bridge. And the purpose of the salt bridge, and we don't need to go into it in great detail, although you will be doing a simulation about this shortly, is that it helps to maintain the electrical neutrality of the cell. And again, you'll see this in a simulation that we're doing in class next week. But the idea of maintaining electrical neutrality is what keeps the cell going. Otherwise, there will not be enough ion as the reaction proceeds to keep the whole thing going. We're going to keep it really simple at this point. Okay, then the next thing you have here is a voltmeter or a power source, or both. It could be one or the other, both. The voltmeter measures the electric potential as the electron pass through. It will help you tell you whether it's an electrolytic cell or a galvanic cell. And then remember what I said earlier, that if it's an electrolytic cell, you need a power source, such as a battery or some other source of electricity, to generate the power that's needed to drive the reaction. Okay, and I do realize that a lot of this sounds fairly complex, but we will be doing some simulation and some lab to help break down the concept further. So the last part of the lecture regarding electrochemical cells and electrochemistry is talking about reduction potential. And what reduction potentials are is that they are a measure of an element's ability to be reduced relative to another element's ability. And we can use reduction potentials to tell us what is going to be what you call the overall electromotive force of the cell, which is measured in voltage. And it's a little tricky to explain, but we could think of it as, like, say, the force of the electrical current that is going between the anode and the cathode as the redox reaction proceeds. Now, to determine the electromotive force of a cell measured in voltage, and we're going to use the formula EMF for electromotive force, also known as E, equals the reduction potential plus the oxidation potential. And you can find the oxidation potential by switching the sign of the reduction potential for the given reaction. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. Now, make sure you note that in any galvanic cell, the way that you should look at this, the reduction occurs in the cell with the higher reduction potential. Okay. A galvanic cell will have a positive electromotive force, while an electrolytic cell will have a negative electromotive force. Okay, so, well, that may have been a little bit confusing, and maybe that's a lot of information, a lot of new stuff at you. We'll go ahead and hopefully we can use these example and the sample problem as a way to show you exactly how this all ties together. Okay, so this would be a sample problem. Okay, we're going to give you the overall equation of a cell like this. Okay, and 2 silver positives plus copper solid will give you 2 silver solid plus copper 2 plus aqueous. Okay, and the first thing I'd like to draw your attention to is that the oxidation number of silver is +1, while copper is 0, and then silver solid is 0, while copper 2 plus is +2. So the way the reaction is written, you can see here that the silver is being reduced while the copper is being oxidized. Okay. So as we look at these two equations, these are the equations I'm giving you. Okay, they're both reduction equations. Okay, Okay, and then these are the reduction potentials for both of these equations. Now, the equation that we did earlier, you can see that the silver is being reduced from +1 to 0, so that is the reduction equation that we're going to keep as it is. This meant, though, that since you can't have both reduction, you've got to look at what was being oxidized, which was copper in this case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch around the first equation and say that this is Cu solid goes to Cu2 plus aqueous plus 2 electron. And since it was being oxidized, we can say that the oxidation potential is, and we switch the sign of the reduction potential, 0.34 volts. And I'll go ahead and cross off that equation. Okay, so let's go ahead and figure out how that might apply in the problem like this one. In the diagram below, you need to label the anode, the cathode, okay, with the reaction that occurs at each one, okay, the direction of the electron flow, and then we're going to determine the overall electromotive force of the cell and state whether it's the galvanic or electrolytic cell. Okay, so first off, we noted in an earlier slide that oxidation occurs at the anode. Okay, in the case of this one, that would be the copper. Notice that was being oxidized. So the anode is copper solid. Okay. The cathode would be silver. So the reaction that is occurring at the anode would be Cu solid yields Cu2 plus aqueous plus 2 electron. And the reaction occurring at the cathode, reduction occurs at the cathode right here, would be Ag positive aqueous plus E negative gives you Ag solid. And don't worry about balancing the equation at all. You don't need to make sure that the electrons are equal. The overall equation already takes that into account. Okay, so all you have to do is describe what is happening here at each electrode. Okay, then, which way does the electron flow? So, as we noted earlier, since copper is being oxidized, it is losing electron. So it is a losing electron to the cathode, the silver, which is gaining the electron to become reduced. So what's happening here is that I can draw this on here. We can say that the electrons are passing through in this direction. So I'm going to say that the flow of the electron goes from here all the way over to here. So over the course of the reaction, we're generating that electrical current as the electrons travel from the copper to the silver. Okay, and if you were to, hypothetically speaking, if you were to connect a light bulb right here, where the voltmeter power source would be, as the electrons are passing through, it would hypothetically light up that light bulb. And we might get a chance to do that in some of the lab activities that we're doing coming on up. Okay. So we've labeled the anode and the cathode. Okay, we've also showed the reaction and the direction of the electron flow. So the last thing we need to do is to determine what the overall electromotive force of the cell is. Okay, so as we stated earlier, the electromotive force equals the reduction potential plus the oxidation potential. Okay. The reduction potential earlier is 0.80 volts, plus the oxidation potential is negative 0.34 volts. And when you add those together, it gives you a electromotive force of 0.46 voltage. And that positive value indicates that it is a galvanic cell and that it will happen naturally without any assistance. Okay. When you do some of the simulations later on, we're going to be discussing in greater detail about what exactly contains in the salt bridge and in this solution. But for now, we're just providing you with the basics of understanding the overall mechanic of how exactly a galvanic cell or electrolytic cell works. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and have you try it with the next example, and then that will conclude the lecture. Okay, so take a moment to study the overall reaction, determine what is being oxidized and what is being reduced, and then you can go ahead and adjust the reduction equation to reflect what is happening in this equation. So go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and see if we can do that process. Okay, so hopefully you see that the zinc is being reduced in the overall equation while the Fe is being oxidized. As a result, you need to flip the second equation, okay, to reflect what's happening in the overall equation. And as you flip that second equation, you're going to turn the reduction potential into an oxidation potential of positive 0.45 voltage. Okay, so now go ahead and label the anode and the cathode with the reaction that is occurring there, and also determine the direction of the electron flow. So go ahead and pause the video. So if you check your work, you can see that iron, which was being oxidized, is the anode, and that's where oxidation is occurring, whereas zinc is being reduced, and that's the cathode, where the reduction is occurring. And the electrons are flowing from the Fe, which is losing the electron, to the zinc, which is gaining the electron. Okay, so now go ahead and pause the video as you determine the overall electromotive force of the cell and state whether it's a galvanic or electrolytic cell. So when you add your reduction and your oxidation potentials together, you will see that you get negative 0.31 voltage, which means that this is an electrolytic cell. And that does mean that a required part of the cell is that you need to have a power source. Okay, this reaction cannot occur if the voltage is negative, which means that you need to put in energy to make it occur. Okay, so that concludes the lectures that you need for this unit. And as you go forth and do the labs and activities that are associated with this, you should come back to this lecture several times to really make sure that you understand the mechanics of an electrochemical cell. Okay, so have fun with this unit.